Whew. Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How we doing today? What's going on, people? How are we? How are we doing right now? How are you all? How are you all? How are you all coping with the news at this point? Good, bad, indifferent? Certainly have a lot to talk about with it. Look, I'm not going to be negative in the slightest. 2 weeks ago, when Baleba wasn't even thought of as a possibility this summer, I said, so long as we get a striker, I feel we'll get into the Champions League positions. I still feel that. Just means there's no title charge. There's no title charge. That's what we're looking at. Unfortunately, there's no title charge. Going live after getting the names from Indy, bullshit. I said them all on United View about 2 hours ago. If you want to go check, by the way, I said all those 3 names. You can believe Indy now, whatever you want. It's pretty obvious what he's doing since that first update. But we will talk about those names because I mentioned every single one of them on View earlier. So we'll talk about that. Because they are worth mentioning, but there are other names also worth mentioning in the in other areas, potentially different positions and things like that as well. But yeah, unfortunately, we're not gonna get Baleba, and we're not gonna win the title this season. I'm sorry to say it, my friends, we're not winning the title this season. I know it sucks. I know it's terrible. I know it's rough, but we're not gonna win the title this season. We'll be fine though. Like I said, I firmly believe we'll get 5th place. But yes, look, what happened? What happened? What happened on on this pursuit? Like what actually happened? Why is it off? I had hopes that they could push this through, but unfortunately, it kind of went as hold on. It kind of went just as expected here, which was everything was moving. We moved into the next step of the discussions with Brighton, put forward a proposal, and the response to the proposal was bad. And that was always a possibility. That's just the truth. Whatever we proposed did not open the door to a deal. And, the simple fact of the matter is the response we seem to have gotten from Brighton is not for sale, and if he were, you're talking our most expensive sale ever is essentially the type of word. So you're thinking 120 million pounds maybe in order to consider it. And the simple fact is United are not going to pay that kind of money, right? United, we're not going to pay that kind of money. Apparently, they don't. They obviously have a limit to what they value him. Even if we raised the money, we don't know what that limit was. But it seems as though 115, 120 million pounds is more than United's valuation of him as of now. You might say that, well, next summer he'll be more expensive. It could be. Next summer he'll be the same price. Yeah, probably. It could be if he has a good season. Now, if he has a good season, the valuation might be higher, right? Because he'll have had another good season. If he has a bad season, the valuation goes down. But the fact is that, you have to have an upper limit on the valuation, and apparently that was above their upper limit. I don't know what I would consider to be my upper limit, but for any player who's had one good season, very good season, and I think Baleba is the truth, mind you. I think he's a top midfielder. So don't get me wrong. But for any player who's had one good season and a half, was it? 18 months or something like that? 18 good months of football? I would say 100 is more than fair. I personally could say, yeah, I could see paying 110, 115. But we don't actually know if they could do that. If he has a bad season, we won't sign him, so it's a lose-lose. No, if he has a bad season, then we dodged a bullet on spending 110 million on a player who doesn't have a good season. So it's not a lose-lose. It's just that there has to be a top-end valuation on any player that we would be looking at, pretty much no matter what. we would absolutely have to. There's just always going to be evaluation. Let's just be real about it. Like, there's never going to be an unlimited number. Yeah, you can stream me in 4K now and see all my pores and how it gets hot in here and all that, because it is hot in here for some reason today. Well, it's like 96 out, so it shouldn't be some reason. It's hot for a reason. It's hot because it's hot. It's hot because it's very hot. But yeah, they obviously had to have an upper limit of the valuation, and apparently their evaluation, it's higher. It's higher than that. It's above the risk, but that might be a factor with this summer too. At the same time, you could even look at it another way, which is that not only was the expected valuation super high, but they weren't even technically agreeing to sell him at that valuation. So then you're trying to scramble together an $120 million offer, and you don't even know if they'll accept it. Maybe they ask for more after that, and then you've gone even further down the rabbit hole of pain, at this point. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously there's some kind of valuation. There's some kind of situation. There's some kind of valuation, and it was just above it, and we can debate it all day, but like I accepted that the valuation for Ollie Watkins didn't match what it would take to get him. We've got to accept these kinds of things too, because frankly, paying well above the valuation feels like a good thing when you really like the player. But a lot of people made the same justifications when we went way over the valuations for Rasmus Højlund, when we went way over the valuations for Casemiro, when we went way over the valuations for Antony. Now, I'm not comparing the players, but you do have to have a valuation for a reason. Because when you start to mess with it, that's when things get really dangerous.
Fernandez from Southampton.
Fernandez from Southampton. I don't think he's on our list. I haven't heard any. Maybe he is, but I haven't heard he's on our list. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I haven't heard that he's on our list. It's not showing us going into the red for me, but for some reason, it seems like it's going over the limit. Hold on a sec. Let me see. Maybe I need to turn that one down. Turn that one up. There. Let's try that. Oh, you know what? I got an idea. That's why. That is why, isn't it? Yeah, there it is. Okay. That's why it's clipping, because it was one of the settings was wrong. Let me turn it down a little bit now. Now we should be in a better range on a microphone, and we should be okay. I was able to turn the gain down a little by turning it up somewhere else. We should be fine now. Should be a little bit better. Just I'm still getting used to the new setup and settings and things changing. But yeah, look, the reality of it is that it was just too much for us apparently, and too difficult. It was too difficult. Now, I still think we need a midfielder ideally. I still think we need a midfielder ideally, but obviously the other potential targets that we have are very, very different to Carlos Baleba. Now, none of them are surprises, okay? None of them are surprises. We've been talking about these names for a long time. Even Yeomand, who obviously Simon Stone gave us a link this morning to Yeomand. You can go back to my famous lists that were apparently nonsense, and you'll find a lot of the names we end up looking at were on those lists, because that's what they were for. They were lists of like all the players that we've been looking at for a long time. And Yeomand was on that list because he is a player that United have watched for the better part of 2 years, even prior to Ruben Amorim arriving. So he's somebody we like. He's somebody we've looked at. On the other hand, he's going to cost 80 million euros pretty much for sure. Sporting have been pointing to that release clause all summer. It's a lot of money for him. Now, who is Yeomand? Because I think people are doing this thing again with midfielders where they look at them and say instantly they're bad. All of the midfielders we're going to talk about are different to Baleba. Baleba is one of the most unique profiles on the in football from a midfield perspective. He's a very unique profile. None of the other names we have are going to match Baleba. And part of the thinking here, mind you, is potentially that maybe we don't buy an alternative to Baleba because we'll go get Baleba next year and we're still wanting it and he still wants to move to United and we could still line it up ahead of time and maybe not spend the money. Okay? So you have to think with that too. If we were trying to move the Baleba deal forward, but we still want him next summer, that doesn't mean we can just go spend that money on somebody else today. We still don't have a departure in the midfield or anything like that. So if we go buy someone cheaper, like who's the same profile as Baleba, I don't think we'll do that. They haven't shown a propensity to say, hey, let's get the... I don't know. Like, I don't see us buying some guy who's not necessarily the guy that we want in the long term. That being said, that's why I think we could do a different type of midfielder is somewhat on the table. We could talk about that, DB. I want to talk about the tactical aspect a little bit because it's why I always think people are panicking too much and just give a bit of a different perspective on this, okay? As I always do. So it may not make sense to go get somebody else of the same profile if we're going to be back in for Baleba next summer. When I first heard Baleba, I said I'd be shocked if we didn't make a move for him between this summer and next. Well, we tried this summer. We didn't get him. I have a feeling we'll be back next summer to get him. In that case, we probably want a different midfielder this summer because of this kind of concept that maybe we want potentially two midfielders leaving, Casemiro plus maybe another, or potentially we just need two midfielders in the long run because we're going to be in multiple positions. Multiple competitions, what I meant to say there. So, that's a possibility as well. Did I miss something? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. What about Ogume? It's great to link him. We have no links to him, right? He's a good player, but thank you for the membership. But yeah, Ornstein said he would still prefer to move to us. He said something like he still wants to move to United. He would still push for it, but he's happy at Brighton, blah, blah, blah. So I think we'll just be back in for Baleba next summer and buy him. I think he'll be our top target for next summer. That's what I think. Papa Gay from Villarreal should be looked at. Fair enough. Look, I want to look at the real names. We hoped we could get a run on it this summer. Next summer, we'll go for it. Now, saying we can't compete with Liverpool and City, I think is silly. We've always competed with Liverpool and City on transfers. It's not like we always lose to Liverpool and City on deals. Like, that's not really the case. If we're back in Europe, then I think we can compete with anybody. If we are back in Europe, I think we're in the business of competing with anybody over a deal. You don't know how City are going to finish. You don't know how Liverpool are going to finish. You don't know how we're going to finish. So the three names are the three ones that essentially that I do know of that United have followed are the three names that Indy essentially has pulled from everywhere. Okay, because we've been talking about. Let's make this clear. We've been talking about Ederson and Wharton as main names for over 12 months now. I've never stopped talking about Ederson and Wharton. We looked at other ones. There was a point where we considered Ederson to be the ideal player and all of that. Yeoman goes back to even the previous summer, us looking at him. But Ederson and Wharton have been there for some time. This is Yeoman, Ederson, and Wharton. Okay? Now, if you have to think about it, if you want to know, what do we want out of a midfielder? What do we want out of a midfielder? Yes, Ensign Stack moved to Leeds now. Yeah, that's an old tweet. That's from the start of summer. My point is, I've been talking about, let me get rid of this person. Spam in the chat. When you talk about what United want, my point is we've been looking at these guys for a long time. So clearly they're the alternative targets as of now. It's easy to guess that. If someone new pops up, cool. But these are names that United have looked at. So if you want to look at what do they do, well, Adam Wharton is one of the is very much like your who would I relate him to? You know, he's more like your modern day Carrick, but but probably offers a bit more defensively. Sits deeper, shields well, great in the pass, solid on the ball. Very, very different to Carlos Baleba.
Should have known he would be around Caicedo money, and that is not going to change next summer. Do they think their value drops?
I understand, but we may not be able to do this summer what we can do next summer. Like, just bear that in mind. I don't disagree with you, but we don't know just because we saw reports in media from people who are guessing what the cost would be. And it's not necessarily a matter of he'll be cheaper next summer. It's maybe we just can't do it this summer. Maybe we just can't. Anyway, Adam Wharton, I'm going to give you two similar profiles. Adam Wharton and Hjulmand are more similar, okay? Adam Wharton and Morten Hjulmand are more similar to each other than to Baleba. Neither are the most mobile of defenders, okay? I disagree with some of these things. Rodri is extremely, extremely mobile. Adam Wharton is not that mobile. He's not. He's probably a little more than Hjulmand, but not by much, actually. I think people may be overrating slightly how fast he is. Both Wharton and Hjulmand would be more similar to the dynamic we get from Casemiro and Bruno if you shoved them in next to Bruno. Okay? If you put them in next to Bruno, you would have a similar dynamic to Casemiro, Bruno, which is, for whatever reason, what Amorim seems to go for very often. They're good passers of the ball. They're very good passers of the ball. They're solid on it, and they're very good duel winners. Neither are actually that good at carrying the ball, which is why Baleba is a bit kind of better. Ederson, on the other hand, is kind of in the middle. He's closer to Baleba, but not really. It's hard to. He's more of an attacker, which throws me a bit. Like, he contributes in the attack quite a bit more, but he's very good at carrying the ball. He's very good on the ball. He's very tenacious. He gets around really well. He's certainly not slow. He covers ground well, and he gets forward a lot. So I don't know. It kind of, the dynamics on it are complicated. Like, if you were to flip it all around, you would go Wharton and Baleba would be your ideal midfield. For now, you'd probably play Wharton and Bruno. For now, you'd probably play Hjulmand and Bruno. You could play Ederson and Bruno, but I think you would have serious issues out of possession. Because he's I think you would have serious issues out of possession with that, because they both want to get forward too much. So you could play Ederson and Ugarte, and it would make a pretty good combination. I know the stats can be misleading. These are just some stats. I have actually watched all of these players quite a lot, so I feel more confident in talking about them. Personally, I would not sign Hjulmand because my personal take on him, even though I'm a fan of Sporting and watched so much of him, is that he's too slow. I think we'll have the same problem we have with Casemiro if you were to bring in Hjulmand. He's better. He's like, right now, I would say Hjulmand is like a better Casemiro, but he's still too slow. I think out of possession, he will still struggle to shut down transitions. And especially when you're having him with Bruno, I think that there would be... You would have more space. It's too much space. He's not fast enough. Like, he's just not fast enough out of possession. That's my opinion. But I want to discuss some other factors on this as well. Wharton, I would take immediately because I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's an excellent player. And even if Wharton and Bruno is not the perfect dynamic today, Wharton can be part of the best midfield in the future if you add another player later on. So Wharton, to me, is a player that I'd be okay with them buying because in the long term, he can be a part of your top midfield. I'm not sure Hjulmand can be. I do like him, and I liked him a lot more when we were talking about like a 4-2-3-1 back in the day. I also quite like Ederson. Like, if you were to get Ederson, it would be very attacking, but you could do different combinations. And in the future, if you ran out a Baleba Ederson midfield, it would actually be really strong and really kind of cool. I would actually like that. Yeah, Hjulmand needs a fast and exactly, Samix. I think that's the issue. Like, you don't have that center back yet, and at the same time, you don't have. I still don't know if his ceiling is high enough where you'd want to spend that much money on him. That's my concern. But these are three players that they've looked at strongly and are different. Can you get Wharton this summer? I would guess no. I don't think Wharton is available this summer. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me do the poll. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I just needed to remember to do the poll. Please do like the video. I forget to ask, and I do need to ask more. But yeah. Look. I think that Wharton would be practically impossible to get this summer right now. With Palace, like I think they can't afford to lose him. I think they're just gonna not sell. Like a price, I get the price wise. It's been named in 80 to 100 million. It might be obtainable in that respect, but I actually think Palace aren't going to sell him right now. They're in Europe. They've had very poor transfers so far this summer, and they're about to lose potentially more players. I do want to talk about another Palace player that we should try to steal, though, and we'll get to that in a second. So these are some of the midfielders. If we go for a midfielder, this is one of the names. These are three names that I would certainly keep in mind that we would potentially go for. I think Ederson and Hjulmand are obtainable. I think Hjulmand is overpriced, though, for what he is. Ederson might be the best buy on here. I think he's probably the best value for money player available of these three that United have liked. Now, how he matches up with our current options, I'm not sure, though. I don't actually know. But I want to talk about the midfield a little bit. And this is where I want to in that, because what if we don't go for a midfielder? Okay, because there was always the possibility that we didn't. There was always this potential that we didn't go for a midfielder this summer after spending 200 million on three forwards. It was something that we've looked at for quite a long time. I do remember Cheek Decore. I quite liked him. As well. I also really liked Boubacar Kamara before he went to Villa. I've actually really had a good read on a lot of DMs that we failed to sign. I also really wanted Tielemans way back in the day. Frustrating. But if we didn't buy a midfielder, which again was a possibility, not saying we won't, there are other things that we can do in order to improve the team. And I need to ask you guys a question. And I want people to maybe better understand the way that I see the game, whether you agree with me or not. Better understand the way I see the game of football under Ruben Amorim in particular. Yeah, I really liked Kamara when he was a free agent. Because I've seen the craziest takes, like when we were over in United View. Man, it was negative. It is, to be fair, a bit more positive here. So not as many people being like, "Oh my God, we didn't get Baleba, we're gonna get relegated now," and like, "Oh, we're no," aside from a few people, we didn't, we're gonna think we're gonna finish 10th now. Like, I'm sorry, we won't. I still believe we're gonna finish in the top 4 to 7 range, because I think that 8th through 20th are really, really got ripped apart this summer when you look at their teams. I mean, look at the lineup Bournemouth putting out today against Liverpool shortly, by the way, and it is terrible. It's terrible. I'm sorry. It's not good. They've gotten torn to shreds. So I think that it's easier than it has been to get in the last couple of years, and it's kind of swung back that way. But in addition, this is what I want to say. Okay, this is what I want to say about this. Obviously, the feeling was that the forwards were going to be the biggest issue anyway in solving things. And I'm once again going to pull up some stats for last year and explain, because I want people to actually understand what I'm saying and not panic on that front, okay? This is the Casemiro and Ugarte partnership. Okay, 7 wins, 1 loss, 4 draws. This is the Casemiro-Bruno partnership. 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. Okay.
Camavinga not a starter for Madrid.
Camavinga not a starter for Madrid. Oh, I would love to take Camavinga, but it feels like impossible. This is Ugarte and Bruno. 6 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. Ugarte and Mainu didn't work out so great last season. Casemiro and Mainu, only 2 games. Anybody in Eriksen, we never won a game. My point on this is first of all that 2 combinations that contain Ugarte in them get 1 out of 22 games, okay? Well, let me do my math. Yeah, out of 22 games, won 13 and only lost 4. That's a top 4 record, by the way, when you look at it in that respect. Regardless, I wouldn't say that means you get top 4 with that combinations. I'm saying that the rate of points and wins and losses that you get, we were able to get 13 wins in 22. 13 wins in 22 is pretty good. It's not all Premier League games, but some of them are against European teams that are better than your lower Premier League teams. But no, it's a mixture of different competitions. We're still playing in different competitions this year. My point was, I think in the Premier League, it was something like 10 wins and 4 losses. Still a decent record, but not as much. The point is that regardless of, no, Europa League does count. Those are football games. And that was in a bad season in a bad team, correct. Those games still count. The point being you can win games. We lost the Europa final, okay? But my point on it is that it's not like you suddenly can't win games simply because you have these personnel. You did win games. You have won games, and you've upgraded significantly in your attack in those areas. Does that mean you don't need a midfielder? No, that's not what I said at all. What I'm saying on that is that you have won enough games with those players, and you have won enough games in those combinations to get back into Europe. Okay? And here's the point I want to make about what's going to fix this team tactically that I think people need to understand, because I want to ask you a question today, because this is how I see the midfield. What do you think is the biggest problem? I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm asking you to answer these things like nicely and calmly and not go off on crazy tangents or get angry, but just answer the question. What do you think is the biggest problem? One thing, and don't say a name, I'm talking about the actual issue itself. What is the biggest problem with the midfield? Let's say it was Ugarte and Bruno. What is the biggest problem in this team with them? Not in the whole team, but in the midfield. What is the biggest problem with that combination? Like one word. Is it the in possession? Is it the out of possession? Is it the progression? Is it, the ground coverage? What is the biggest problem? Out of possession transitions, progression. Cunha fixes it. Good. Okay. No, I'm talking about the midfield. But what about the balance? What about the balance? Is it the out of possession? Is it the progression? Is it the physicality? Like, which thing in the midfield is it? What does balance mean? What's wrong with the balance? When you say balance, take that one step further. What's wrong with the balance? What is it missing? Because balance implies something is missing. Defensive transitions. You play 2 and every opponent plays 3. Yeah, good take. Lacks aura. Interesting. Discipline, transitions, out of possession. So look, a lot of people have different reasons for this, right? A lot of people have different reasons being given for this, right? But I want to tell you something. I want to ask you a question. And I'm just asking you to listen to what I have to say on this and just understand it, because I have I think a decent understanding of how the team wants to play football. What if we played a 4-3-3? Okay, let me ask you this question now. What if we played a 4-3-3 and it was Ugarte, Bruno, and Cunha? Okay? If we were playing a 4-3-3, a 3-man midfield, and it was Ugarte, Bruno, and Cunha, what would be the problem? Because it still wouldn't be good, would it? Right? So I try to point out, it's not necessarily the system. There's something wrong with it. That the balance of that 3 is still not good. Why? It's not the in-possession work, actually. It's not the progression of the ball, because Bruno and Cunha in a midfield 3, you have more than enough progression between the two of them. It's not the passing even. It's not the carrying, because you have a good carrier and you have good people. No, Ugarte is not the problem. I'm asking you for a specific reason why it would be the problem. Because let me tell you this. If you played a 4-3-3 and you put Baleba in there with Bruno and Cunha, the midfield would still be bad. You understand that? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think that Baleba, Cunha, and Bruno makes a good midfield? Do you think anybody would play with a 3-man midfield that would be like that? In fact, I don't think you could pick a single midfielder in the world that you could put in that 6th position in a midfield 3 with Bruno and Cunha and would work. Because you're still talking about 2 10s who are attacking, 2 10s who are attacking, who are not that strong out of possession, but do progress the ball really well. But a 6 and 2 natural 10s is not usually how you set up a midfield. So it would still not be fixed. So that's why I say even Prime Conte had Matic next to him, not Bruno Fernandes. Rodri, maybe. That's the closest you could get, right? That's the closest you could get is someone like potentially you'd have to have the complete most unicorn midfielder on earth, okay? So what's the answer? What's the answer? There you go, Nuke. You got it. The answer is it's never going to work. It's never going to work because that's not how you play football. The answer is, are you ready for it? Because I'm ready for it. Ta-da! You have to have your center back step up into the midfield to make 2 6s. That's the answer. And if you don't know by now, that's what Ruben Amorim wants out of his midfield, and he wants out of his center back. And if you listen to Harry Maguire's comments in his interview, he made points about this, about how they were scared to step up into the midfield, scared to step up at the right times, and we lack potentially the right midfielder for this. Are we looking for another center back? We certainly are. We don't know if we could get to it this summer. But my point is, yes, Yoro can do that. Lissandro can do that. You know who's really bad at it? I don't want to say. I'm not going to be mean. You know who's not very good at it? Matthijs de Ligt. That's why I don't rate him for the central center back position and why I say he actually creates quite a few issues in here. He's not quick enough going forward. He's a good box defender, but he doesn't step up. Now, Harry isn't either, but Harry happens to be so good in the air that it helps, okay? But our defenders have to be much more aggressive in that sense. And it's the reason why I don't necessarily rate De Ligt in that position. He does not step up quickly. He's always behind the attacker. And when you watch Everton, when all the focus was on one player, Beto was dropping in to make 2v1s in the midfield the entire game, and De Ligt was not following him. You can rewatch the game and you will see it. He was always 2, 3, 4 steps behind him. We need another center back. And the other day, I think Maguire's better at it, but not great at it because he's still not that quick. And he's a much better player in the air, and he's a bit more aggressive. You don't need them to run back quickly because they're a midfielder. You don't need them to run back quickly. You don't necessarily need vertical pace. You just need to be aggressive. Lissandro potentially could do it, but you do have one big problem with Lissandro. In going into the middle. You have to win the ball in the air. This is where a lot of direct balls come in to target the 2v1 on the 6. You have to win the ball in the air. Lissandro's not the right fit for that reason. Because he's not going to win the ball in the air. This is probably why a lot of people have said Lenny could do it. Lenny does do it. It doesn't necessarily always have to be from, because what will happen is sometimes it goes like this, and the wide center back steps up to be aggressive too. It can happen from the wide center back position. That's certainly possible as well. That can be part of it. Every center back needs to be aggressive in their ability to step forward into the game and support the midfield. But the problem is that he's the only one with pace out wide too. So he has to take the faster attackers out in the wide positions. But we need the center backs to step into the midfield. That's the answer. That actually is the answer to our midfield. Now, once you do that, then you just need a better play. Then you just need to upgrade in these positions, get a better 6. But I'm telling you today, if that doesn't happen, it doesn't matter who you sign in the midfield. And that's what was not happening last year. The support from the center backs was not there in the midfield. They drop back way too quickly and leave too big of a gap between them and the midfielder. And again, this is also why Amorim likes inverting them even in possession, so that if you lose the ball up here in transition, the center back is already up in the midfield, ready to essentially stop the direct ball coming in. So there's a few reasons that you need it. Same with West Ham with Souček. Exactly. Our bigger problem than our midfield is the center backs need to step up properly. So they need to step up. They need to add physicality to the midfield, because this midfield will never work with 2 natural 10s, but that's how Ruben Amorim likes to play, so you have to make a box. You have to essentially go 2 6s and 2 10s rather than going a 6, an 8, and a 10 as a balance. And that's just the way that that Ruben Amorim likes to play, and that's what he wants to do. And people will get that. And so when they made the assessment this year, to get the forwards, you have to realize that it's not that they don't want to upgrade on the midfielder. Don't get me wrong. They obviously do. I'm not denying that in the slightest, and I never will. But the way he has the feeling of moving Bruno deep is twofold. Number one, that this is Cunha and not Alejandro Garnacho. That Alejandro Garnacho never supported the midfield, so it made the problem 10 times worse. Because instead of having a 3-man midfield, you've got Garnacho sprinting down here, Højlund twerking on a defender, and your right 10 was sometimes dropping, sometimes not, and you end up with big gaps between the teams, between the players. Cunha dropping in fixes a big part of the problem by being... and same with Mbeumo being willing to, because on alternating sides, you will get them dropping in to make a 3-man midfield. That 3-man midfield is fine for in possession, fine for progression, fine
They
for
weren't
getting the
gonna
ball
sell
up the
him.
pitch.
They
Same
would
with
use
Rashford.
Muppet as the
True.
floor next
That was his
season.
weak point. 1 second, sorry. That midfield was fine for this is fine for in possession. Having Cunha or Mbumo drop in to add to the midfield gives you a 3, gives you enough players, gives you good ball carriers, gives you great progression. Because then you have Bruno and Cunha or Bruno and Mbumo progressing the ball. That's great. Progression solved. But out of possession, when you lose the ball, when the 8 starts getting forward and the 10s are pushing up the pitch, it's open because the 8 is usually an attacker. You need the center back to step up very, very well. So that's what has to happen. That's the answer. That's why they felt, hey, let's get the attackers, because we will be able to, essentially, at the end of it, if you actually look at it, guess what this is? If you do it right, out of possession, in transition, guess what this is? We've seen this shape a million times. It's a 4-2-3-1. It's a 4-2-3-1. So you can say you hate the system all you want. It's a 4-2-3-1 out of possession when you lose the ball. One of the most secure formations in football for defending, 4-2-3-1. That's what it's supposed to be. The wingbacks have to get back quickly when you lose the ball. The center back has to support the midfield, and the attackers you're expecting to be higher up at the pitch at that point in time. It's just a 4-2-3-1. This is why formations are pointless. This is why formations are pointless. It's all about how you move and rotate in different phases and things like that. There's nothing wrong with this system. It's really not that different to anything else that you might run. It just requires, every system just uses a bit of different profiles in how they support things. The biggest thing there is the center backs have to get really good at supporting the midfield. So we've been looking at center backs. If we don't go for a midfielder, one thing, say their 9 doesn't drop deep and their 8 goes forward, I mean, that's fine. Then your 8 just has to get back and cover their man. Their 8 just has to get back and cover their man. That's never going to change in any phase of football. The 8 has to get back and cover their person. But if the 8 is all the way up here, then you have an overload in attack. And that just means don't lose the ball cheaply when you have an overload in the attacking area. So, again, the problem is when the 9 drops. Because let me flip these. The problem is when the 9 drops, not the 8. The 8 has to follow the 8. When the 9 drops into these little pockets around here, somebody has to follow him. Somebody has to follow him. That is what has to happen. Your 6 can't be diving in 60 yards from goal either. Well, that doesn't help either. There's no doubt about that. Because that doesn't give your center back enough time to even support you when you do something like that, right? That tends to be the issues. Everybody plays 3-2-5 going forward. Everybody plays 3-1-6 going forward. There's really very little difference between this system and anything else. It's literally just a center back for a midfielder and some different profiles in the wide areas and mids. You know, it's like, it is what it is, you know? But it's really not that different to anything else that we might have seen at different periods in time. So, given all of that waffle that I just went on, if we don't get a midfielder in, well, even if we do, yeah, you want an athletic center mid because one way or another, you still need a ground cover here. My biggest concern with Ruben Amorim is that he'll start Casemiro. With Bruno, and I think that's a massive, massive mistake. I think he can't do that. That to me is one of the biggest concerns that I have because I don't think it works. I think that's a huge, huge issue. I think that if we play it with Ugarte and Bruno, it will help. It's certainly better, and it's good enough for us to get into Europe. Because Casemiro doesn't cover ground well enough, and that causes more issues on its own. I'm actually, I'm gonna watch the game as well. I'm not gonna take the whole game streaming. We'll do a bit more of this, and then do our votes and things, and then I'm gonna go watch the game. But I have it on. I'm actually trying to pull it up on my phone here. Hold on, so I can watch it on the other screen here. You have a bad feeling it's going to start, Casemiro? Yeah, I have a bad feeling as well. But regardless, what I was going to say is that, what I unfortunately believe will happen is that we will end up in a situation where, if we don't get a proper midfielder in, or even if we get a different type of profile in, the thing I would not write off is us going for a center back as well right now. Or separately, because if we can't get a midfielder, we might go for a center back. That is a possibility, okay? Something to think about. One of the things I the other day, I mentioned that there was reports on center backs. There was talk of Upamecano being offered to us. There was a report as well that we were actually in for the center back that that Liverpool signed, Leone or whoever it was, that we actually made an attempt for him and all of that. And I said that there's been some reports, some true, some perhaps not. But the reason I said that is one of the potential alternative plans to signing a midfielder is a center back. And I would think about, give me 1 second. I just need to get my dogs. My bad. And anyway, a name I would certainly keep in mind is Guehi. Simply because we've been interested, we've been following him for some time. So that's one I would keep in mind. There's probably others. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but we've been keeping an eye certainly on those center backs. As well at the same time, just in case. So yeah, so we'll see. Obviously, we've got those multiple names. Scalvini is someone we've really liked, but I think he'll be very expensive. Now, Guehi. Yeah, that's who I was referring to, a Crystal Palace player. Guehi could play on the left. He could play center. He can play in different positions. So he could step up into the midfield. He could support the left side. There's quite a few things that he can do that would help us a lot this summer. I think he's a good player. We've been following him for a while. So I'm looking at those three midfielders: Yeoman, Ederson, and Wharton, of course. I'm going to keep an eye on the center back side of things though too, and say maybe that's something, because we have. Have you watched? I haven't. I can't say that I have. But I'm sure he's a good player. But I cannot say that I've watched Sangare of Vienna. But what I would want to say is that the way that they work through the windows, as we know, is they do the same plan. If they can't get one player, well, there's also other positions that they may go for. And yeah, left-footed. Yeah, he likes left-footed players, certainly. Now, I would say that I really like the idea of Zeno de Bast for this reason, because I think he's the perfect center back to help and support in this team too in the long term, but obviously probably not this summer. So Ederson, Wharton, Yeoman, those are all options. If we move for a different midfielder, if we move for a center back, then I think we're going to be talking about, then there's some other potential names like Guehi. So those are ones I want to keep in mind here. There you go. The Premier League is kicked off. Liverpool versus Bournemouth. We want more. I was talking about De Bast, who I think is left-footed when I said left-footed players. Guehi's right-footed. I'm getting myself mixed up in all the names I'm talking about. Guehi is right-footed. De Bast is left-footed. Who am I mixing up right now? Tabast is left-footed, I feel like. Maybe he isn't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I get myself confused a lot. I get myself confused on the footedness of these players a lot. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking and I'm looking at right now, is that if we cannot get that, then Guehi or one of those midfielder names. Now, maybe we go for some huge, like, maybe we go for some crazy, huge other player. Yeah, DeBast is left-footed. Thank you. Okay, that's what I thought. I knew somebody I just mentioned was left-footed. It's DeBast. So we'll see. All right, let's go to the lineup. I want to do this lineup thing, and then obviously everybody's going to want to get to watching this game as well, which I'm watching here on my phone too. So what I'm going to do, Zeno DeBast, isn't he like very two-footed? He's right-footed too, but I swear to God, he's like one of those guys who's extremely good with both feet to where it's almost confusing. But you might be right. He's right-footed. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm confused as well, man. It doesn't matter. Maybe Inacio. I don't know. Regardless, Amarim does like lefties in the team. DeBast is very good with both feet, though. That much I feel like is certain. He is very good with both feet. God, I hate the footed. I get so confused by those players. Like, it doesn't matter. All right, let's do our vote here, and we're gonna do this a little bit differently. So each week we're gonna have you guys vote for the team. Then you're gonna compare it to who I want in the team, and then the next week what we're gonna do is we're actually going to look at what did Amarim pick, compare it to what we both wanted the prior week, and then vote again. And we'll do that each week through the year, starting obviously with this one, so that we can actually see, like, what are we picking? What did, Amarim pick? What's the differences? See how it evolves, and see if, based on the team Amarim picked and the result, kind of compare and go through it. And I want to see how this evolves over the course of the season. So let's go through your guys' vote for the starting 11 this week, and then I'll show you my vote, what I want after that. We'll see if there's any differences, and then we will we'll get to this next Friday. We'll do this again to kind of compare yours, mine, the previous week's, Amarim's, all of that, and see what we can do. Remember, this is not what you think. I want to be clear about these votes. This is not what you think. This is what you want. My point on these votes, my point on this is, what do you want to see on the pitch each week to just know, like, what is the fan sentiment on the 11? Because it changed a lot last season over the course of the year from where it started, like insanely so, almost hilariously so. So let's take a look here, and we'll start with number 1 at striker. Who do you want? And I'm going to try to get through these pretty quick so that this doesn't take too long. At striker, Šeško, Højlund, or somebody else. This one's going to be really easy. We don't need to probably question this too much. Pretty much everybody's going to be voting for Benjamin Šeško to start in the opening day. That's an easy one. To be quite honest, I personally feel like the team picks itself. But, you never know. Left 10. Right 10, we're going to go Cunha and Mbumo, Cunha, Ahmad, other. And I'm just going to put those up there and see what people think in this position. 5% started their Friday bender picking Rasmus Højlund over Benjamin Šeško for the starting week. I think pretty much everybody's going to say Cunha and Mbumo. This is the easy part. Everybody wants the front three to be the 3 players that we've signed. I think that there's practically nobody on earth who would disagree at this point. Actually, there might be some people out there who say start Ahmad and such. And Mbumo should be totally fit. He should be totally fit by now. There should be no issues there. Let's move to the midfield. This is where it gets complicated. We're going to go with our 8 here. We're going to go Bruno, Mainu, Casemiro, because I guess you could vote for benching Bruno to a degree. Let's pick this and see what we've got. It's not who you think, it's who you want to start, okay? It's who you want to start in this position. Just making that very, very clear. Who do you want to start? All right. Bruno's going to win there. He should. I think. I honestly think to start the year, it's almost everybody's going to be viewing it the same. Now, this is the trickier one. I think most people are still going to vote the same, but you never know. You never know here. I think it'll be a bit more split on this, but I'm pretty sure Ugarte will still win this one on the vote. By how much is the question? Because I think you'll get some decent Mainu shouts. I still think Ugarte, Mainu on paper. Yeah, I actually think so too, with a better team around them, Avrad. Like, I think that they partnered in really tough games primarily, and also in games where we were even worse in some of the other positions that we had. But in theory, I still think they're the best partnership. Like they were at Anfield, if I'm not mistaken, but could be wrong. All right, Ugarte wins that one. So as we move through, Ugarte becomes our next one into the team. I think we're not going to have any questions here, but let's do these two at the same time just to get through it. Dorgu is going to be automatic. Dorgu Ahmad, Dorgu Dallo, or some insane person wants Dallo Ahmad or Dallo Dorgu. Let's see if somebody wants, let's see. This one should be pretty easy. We all want Dorgu Ahmad. Some people I thought might want Dorgu Dallo because it's because of Arsenal, set pieces, defending, things like that. But yeah. All right. Dorgu and Ahmad still win that one. So far, I can safely say that you guys are on the same page as me as to the teams. Let's put it that way. All right, this is where I think we might get some questions. Left center back, Heaven, Shaw, Euro. Think this through. Because if you put Euro there, you have to figure out who's going to play a right center back, and Mazraoui's not an option. Ooh. I thought this is where you guys were going to split with me. I thought this is where things would split, but it looks to be going the way that I expected. Which is this is what I wanted. Which is Luke Shaw. I've got faith in Luke Shaw this season. I believe. I'm a believer in Luke Shaw. I think he's going to have a better season. I think he's going to do better. I think he's going to play better. If Shaw's healthy, he'll play. That's what I think. I think that if he can stay healthy and get confidence in his body back, that Shaw's going to have a good season. That was a nice move by Bournemouth there. Almost got in. Shaw's fit. He's ready to go. I believe. I'm a Shaw believer. Now, here's the other split. And I really hope after preseason and everything people have learned, they will have figured the answer out to this. Ooh. Especially given we need aerial prowess in this game. Because the last time we did this vote, De Ligt won. I still can't believe it. I think preseason proved the point on who should be starting at central center back, to be honest. Oh, good tackle. Okay. Maguire should be fine. Maguire should be fine. He should be fit and good now for 60 minutes at least. All right, Maguire. Maguire wins. Okay, all right. Well, I might have. This is where I said I'm not sure I've seen as much consensus. Do I even need to poll this? Do I even need to poll this? I'm not sure I've seen as much consensus or agreement, even though we all agree there are still flaws in the team. I'm not sure I've seen as much consensus over our best 11 for a game, like ever in our community. And I'm not sure I've seen you guys agree with me on every single vote so far. But let's get to the let's get to the goalkeeper last and see. And that'll give us a good start. That'll give us a good start, and that way we can that way we can see. Then I think our opinions are all going to start to go crazy after 1 week. If we win, though, I think everybody will stick with that. Carl Anka advocates for Matthijs de Ligt at right center back because of Ahmad, but why? What does de Ligt do any better than Lenny or Shaw for that matter, especially as a wide defender? That's my only question. Like, what is the reason? I didn't see why he said that, so I'm curious. Why would de Ligt be better at right center back than Lenny and Shaw? Like, what does he bring over either of them? That's my question for you. Or what he said was the reason. It's actually a surprising amount of votes for Tom Heaton. Holy shit. Don't meme here, but physicality, but where and why? Wow, Tom Heaton. The heat is on. I bet you guys think I put Tom Heaton in my... Oh, no. Oh, yes. Bournemouth preventing a break from Liverpool there. Because he's better 1v1 than Shaw? Better aerially? Oh, my God. I have to leave this up now because Heaton is about to win. What is the defender from Bournemouth doing there? He literally slapped at the ball. I'm not sure he touched it. Sorry, tangent. I'm not sure he actually touched it with his hand, but he he didn't touch it, but he slapped at the ball as the last man. That could have been a red card in the first 13 minutes of the game here. Sorry about that. It's crazy, but it's okay in the end. That was wild. I'm going to give it a few more because this is almost... I'm telling you the truth right now. Okay? I'm telling you the truth right now. I put Onana in because, honestly, really? Heaton? I actually really like Tom, but let's be real for a minute. At game speed, can he actually keep up? Well, I don't know. It's too close. I can't. On my side, it's showing draw. Now it shows Onana back in the race. But obviously, this shows the lack of confidence in Onana. And now Onana's going to win. Did I influence it that much? I wasn't trying to influence it. I was literally saying, I was hoping we would actually disagree on one thing, because otherwise it's kind of boring. But honestly, it is funny. This is how crazy it is. This is how crazy it is. This is how close it can be. He's not doing sprints. Yeah, but there's still game speed, even for a keeper. Why did you guys vote for more? Why did more people vote for Onana as soon as I said I put him in my team? The whole point of this is to compare. I mean, I will give my opinion on players, but usually I expect over time people to see that. All right, I'm going to end it there. Onana has one. We should go for a keeper. But it looks like we're going to miss out on Lamens to Inter, which is a bummer. Tyler Adams get around a pitch? Yeah, let's get Tyler Adams. I got to meet him briefly in Chicago as well. You probably saw the video of that. I got to it was the only Bournemouth player I called over. I had to call over my American friend. So, this is your team as voted by you the chat. This is my team as voted by me, the James. And that's it. They're the exact same. I was a little wondering about these three. I figured the rest would be there. But yeah. Well, you know what, Avian? It did, because there's a delay between my speaking anyways and the vote. This is your team as voted by chat. Same as mine. And it was pretty, outside of the goalkeeper, it was a pretty strong majority. So let's see what Ruben Amorim does, because he pretty much has a couple choices to make here, here, and here. I think he's going to play Casemiro, to be honest. But that's just me. All right. So there we go. That was the two teams that we voted for. Your team, my team. This week did the same. Let's see what Amorim does. Next week we'll compare what Amorim does to what we voted for, the result, and see how it changes week to week. I'm really curious to see that aspect of it, and I think that'll be fun to look at on a week-to-week basis. I think he's going to start Casemiro with Bruno because he started. Nobody else has gotten a chance to start with Bruno the entire preseason. I think it's a huge mistake, but so be it. That's it. That's the team. That's our votes. That's what we think. Right now, we're all in agreement. Let's see what happens as the season goes on. We will certainly find ourselves split. So we'll come back to this next week. Okay, so that's it. In summary, huge explanation on the midfield and why I'm still very optimistic, because as long as we fix the system issues, I think we'll be okay. And then it's just about upgrading players. And I think the big problem we had in the midfield is not a midfield problem, but a system and center back problem. Now that we haven't got Baleba, and it looks like we're not going to get Baleba this summer, we probably will go for him again next summer. We do have alternative options in Ederson, Yeoman, and Wharton, maybe more. Let's see if we go for one of them. Let's see if we pivot towards a center back. In that case, I'm certainly keeping an eye on Guehi. Obviously, there's probably others, but I am going to keep an eye on that because we have been monitoring center backs a bit. Okay. And then hopefully you enjoyed that big whole tactical explanation. I might make a video just cutting that whole part out. Okay. And, just so I can kind of demonstrate it. So that's what I've got for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for hanging out today. Enjoy the first game of the season, and I will be back tomorrow with my predictions for the game, as well as probably an afternoon live to discuss what's going on, results around the league, and prepare for Sunday.